Shame isolates us, it makes us small, it makes us retreat, and it represses us.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as we recognize that, hey, that is a tool of the patriarchy that's trying to squish me into a box, and I say, no, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
No, thank you. No shame.
Welcome to the Owning Your Sexual Self podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Main, sex and relationship coach and therapist, and I'm so honored to have you here. This podcast was created as a space for honest, nuanced, shame-free conversations about sex, intimacy, desire, relationships, and what it really means to feel at home in your body. Whether we're talking about pleasure, boundaries, communication, healing, or the messy middle of long-term relationships, this is a place where you don't have to have it all figured out in order to belong. As I enter into my 6th year of podcasting, I feel more committed than ever to helping you soften the pressure, trust your body, and build a relationship with your sexuality that feels grounded, empowered, and true to you. So take a breath, let yourself arrive, and know that wherever you're starting from is more than enough. Now, let's get into today's episode. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back for another episode of Owning Your Sexual Self. I have on just a very juicy guest with us today. I'm so excited. We have Elana Auerbach on the show today. She is, I love the archetypes that you pulled into this, the lover, the mother, the author, the mentor, the activist, the priestess, all of those things, because yes, as women, we have the duality of it all. And after years of frustration and failed gimmicks, I know all about those, trying to respark that passion in your 20-year marriage. And so you created the book, The Sure Thing, which we'll totally get into today. I'm so excited. And it sounds like you really wrote this book because you want people and everyone to have access to these life-altering practices based on pleasure. Is that right?
That's right.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on to the show today. It's so good to have you. And how does one even drop into a journey like this that you've been on?
Well, from a lot of frustration,
Yes.
from a lot of built up gunk, and from a commitment to my spouse
Mm-hmm.
and to my own pleasure,
Mm-hmm.
and to really embodying the pleasure that I didn't, honestly, Rachel, I had no idea
Mm-hmm.
how empowering and activating having a weekly pleasure practice was going to be just for me in my body. I started in my 50s. We've been doing this for this weekly practice for over 5 years. And it has inspired me to learn how to ski, train in Aikido. My dream is to be Shodan by the time I'm 60, which is in a few years, which is black belt. We'll see. I'm not attached. But this part of myself, which I call my wild sensual self, who I've named Vivacious Viv, I had brief encounters with her in my 20s and 30s, and kind of recognize this part. But since we started this practice, she has fully come to the forefront of my consciousness, and I am intimate with her. And so every week, and this was a surprise. I mean, so much about this practice was a surprise. She has this canvas that, this energy of Shakti, creativity, because, our sexual centers in our genitals, in our belly, in our belly kiva, in our womb, guess what? You know this. It's our creativity center. So we're going to open that up. We're going to, open that channel. Wow. All kinds of surprises, all kinds of creative expression and fulfillment that I didn't even know I wanted, right? Has come out. So I don't know if that answers your question. It was
Yes, plus
yeah.
more.
Okay.
Absolutely. And that's such a conversation that we have here on the show, and you really just put an example to it. But I often say, like, when we tap into our pleasure, when we tap into our sensuality, our sexuality, how that flows through to other parts of our life. It's like it truly is like the secret sauce, the missing piece, like however you want to describe it, like it is the thing that is missing for a lot of people. And I think for so many people, right, we're just waiting for that desire, that pleasure, that intimacy to just sort of happen. Like, oh, it'll show up one day. And so I love that your work really flips the script on that. And so when you are speaking, you talk about, right, 100%, we have 100% responsibility for our pleasure. And so I'd love to start with that. Like, what do you really mean by that in your own words?
Yeah. Well, I was actually on a walk with a friend here locally, on a hike, and she said that, and immediately I was like, wow, yes, I love that. Because and so I really took it on. And all of a sudden, it was like now I no longer had anybody to blame,
Mm-hmm.
including myself, right? Which often we like blame ourselves, and we, shame ourselves. We're in a society that is encourages this.
Mm-hmm.
I believe so that we stay repressed and we stay small. So we don't actually connect in with, I believe sensual sexual energy is some of the most potent energy on the planet, possibly in the universe.
Mm-hmm.
And so, can you imagine if all of us are really connecting in with that? We are not going to take it anymore. We are not going to take the double standard. We are not going to take all of the stuff that's going on here in the United States, and the oppression and the repression and everything. So, of course, the domination culture that we live in represses that, right? And wants us to disconnect and disassociate with our sexuality, with our sensuality, with that like lifeline into, I want to say, like the sun, the power of the sun potential, right? That can fuel us. And so I feel like connecting in with owning our pleasure, owning our sensuality and sexuality is a radical act. It is an act of empowerment, of self-empowerment, and in this culture that we live in, absolutely a revolutionary act. And so 100% responsible means that I'm responsible for my pleasure. I'm responsible for my orgasm. I'm responsible for making sure that it feels good, making sure my body feels as good as I want it to feel. And what I've found is that it's an infinite exploration, because pleasure just is infinite. And so, how good do I want my body to feel? It's also in that 100% responsibility is boundaries, is a very clear yes and a very clear no. And it's a journey to get there. And we're continually, evolving and tuning in to what feels right and what doesn't feel right. And I'll tell you, when I started this, Rachel, this practice of finding out what it is that I wanted, I was in my 30s, and I would ask myself, I took on a practice of asking, what do I want? And most often when I first started, I don't know. Confusion, disassociation, I don't know. Perfect. That's a perfect place to begin. Just having the intention to continue to ask the question. And eventually I started, this is what I want to eat for breakfast. This is what I want to wear. This is what I want. And then, you move into the sexual, sensual realm, and it gets more clear as we hone that muscle. I call it the I know what I want muscle. Just like anything, we have to cultivate it. We have to, practice.
Yeah.
And then we can bring that into when, things are a little heightened. When, whether it's sex, whether it's, we're in a conflictual conversation, whatever, we can use that muscle because we've honed and toned it to be like, this is what I want, this is a yes, this is a no, and we can really attune to that channel inside of us, our inner guidance system, if you will, about what would be 100% responsible for me in this moment.
Absolutely. Yeah, you are so speaking my language right now. Like this is all of what we talk about often on this show. And I think it also it helps it helps the person also take their power back when we can claim this. Like, this is 100% my responsibility. This is not, again, as you said, not blaming others, not putting my pleasure into the hands of anybody else. I think this especially shows up in partnership of thinking, well, he should know how to turn me on. He should know how to get me to the orgasm, or for the partner to think that, right, it's my job. I gotta get her there. I gotta make this happen for her because as you said, the yes and the no are equally as important. She might not want an orgasm that day. She might not want like intimacy that day, and that's okay. And yeah, I love this. I'm totally on board with this, that our pleasure is our responsibility. And what do you think, and because you've been doing a lot of work with this, you know, have a book around this, what do you think is the thing that people often misinterpret when they hear a phrase like this?
I think they take on like, oh, responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
another burden,
Mm-hmm.
another chore to add to my ever growing to-do list. And in fact, and I get that, you know, we're all overwhelmed. There's so much going on. There's so many demands on our time for, no matter who you are or where you are in your life. That is the truth. And there's, of course, with so many demands for our attention, right, with devices and so forth. So
Mm-hmm.
I understand how that could feel like it's another thing to do. And
Yeah.
it is another thing to do. However, it's a thing that will feed and energize and rejuvenate us. It's
Mm-hmm.
like doing, anything that we do, like eating nourishing, healthy food, right?
Yeah.
Any kind of physical activity that you do, whether it's yoga or hiking or running or biking or swimming, or you do it. You may not always want to, you may not always feel like it, but after you do it, you know it's good
Mm-hmm.
for you, and you
Mm-hmm.
know it's going to be beneficial for your life and
Yeah.
for your body and for your energy. That is absolutely the same thing about taking 100% responsibility for your pleasure and then having a pleasure practice. A
Mm-hmm.
weekly pleasure practice is what I recommend. Certainly, you can do it more often, but start with having a weekly pleasure practice where what you do, whether you're practicing solo or with a partner or with however many consenting adults that you want to practice with, that that's your commitment to cultivate that, to start to play and explore and be curious about pleasure,
Mm-hmm.
about orgasm, about sex, about making requests, about having boundaries, about staying attuned. And I imagine what I found is that sometimes I don't know it's a boundary until I've crossed it.
Mm,
And then
yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay. So we be gentle and compassionate with ourselves. We're doing the best we can. And now we know, oh, that's the boundary.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now I'll know that for next time. We are constantly learning and growing
Mm-hmm.
and becoming. It's not like some place of arriving,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we just gentle with ourselves, kind to ourselves, and now we know that, okay, that's good. Now I know where that is. Okay, now I can feel that container, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. I like that yeah, going back to what you were saying around the another thing to add to the to-do list, right? Because I think that yeah, taking on a pleasure practice and committing to doing something like this weekly or more, I might add, doesn't just have to be like I would say weekly is the minimum. But it like fuck the patriarchy, right? Like we're in this society that like success equals progress, and I think that that is so like the pleasure practice undoes all of that. It shows a precedent to like we are in control here of like what we want to experience. We can lead our own destiny with this, and I think it's yeah, just allowing women to like soften more of that. And when you, especially for the person that is resilient against the pleasure practice, if they're feeling like well, I don't know how to connect to my body, or I'm feeling resistance to this. They have those walls of shame, right? I see them all the time in my practice. But I can be willing to bet when you get to a place where those walls start to come down, which the pleasure practice is going to help to do that, the pleasure practice is way more fun probably than doing the dishes or putting away your laundry or making that dentist appointment, right? Like whatever it is. And so I think that's where I was saying like the get it moving away from the we have to be doing something to be successful, to be worthy, to be seen. Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
I'm getting on my pedestal now, so I'll stop it there. I think you're understanding, but um Yeah, I'll leave it at that. I'll let you take it back over. All right, y'all. I'm here with another recommendation. So sorry to interrupt your podcast, but I have to talk about the Foria products that one of my colleague Susan Bratton, she sent me these last year, and these have been a game changer in the bedroom for us. Like, I cannot stress enough. So I need to go over some of these things with you. So first off, the Awaken Arousal Oil. Literally imagine the best orgasm and sex that you've ever had. And now imagine that could be even better. And that's exactly what these products are designed to do. They naturally enhance sexual pleasure and give you access to bigger and better orgasms. Yes. And like I'm attesting to that right now. And what an arousal oil is, and awaken, this is their words. Awaken is like a juicy warm up that helps you get really turned on, increasing your pleasure, deepening your orgasm, increasing your connection with your partner. Awaken uses CBD and warming sensation inducing organic botanicals that enhance arousal, sensitivity, access to orgasm, and overall pleasure. And best of all, Awaken just turns you on. Yes, you lady that is listening. And Foria Awaken is a proven product that actually works. 92% report feeling more aroused, and 92% reported reaching orgasm. So there is a pleasure set that they offer. This is what I would recommend to go with, because you get to try each of their best sellers. So in addition to the Awaken Arousal Oil, you get within the pleasure set, it comes with all three of their best-selling intimacy products: Awaken Arousal Oil, the Sex Oil, and the Intimacy Melts. So Awaken stimulates her arousal and increases sensation. The Intimacy Melts helps her experience deep internal waves of pleasure. And the Sex Oil lubricates during sex and creates a juicy experience for the both of you. Literally, the magic combination of all three of these is the ultimate sexual experiences that will take your connection with your partner to the next level. These have been so good. So fun. Danny and I, when we're together, he's like, do you want me to grab the sex oil? And I say, is that even a question? Hell yes, let's do it. So if you want to check out these products, you can go to their website, foria.com. It's FORIA.com. And if you use the code MAIN20, it's going to take 20% off of your order. I gave it the wrong website. I'm so sorry. It's Foria Wellness, FORIA wellness.com. And same code, MAIN20 is going to take your 20% off. And then on top of that, they're always running deals for like free shipping and things like that. So check it out. Let me know what you think. And I'm telling you, have I ever steered you wrong? Like these are so freaking good. Enjoy.
What I find is that the more we open that channel of pleasure by having a regular, reliable practice, and like you said, sure, minimum once a week, you could have it every day. I highly recommend simple little pleasurable things, like just, touching your hand and feeling how that feels, and letting that, or touching your face, and just like you touch somebody who you absolutely adore. Just do that for yourself. And so just little moments of pleasure. So then what I found is that then doing the dishes, I can find more pleasure in doing the dishes, in calling, making those doctor's appointments, or taking out the, recycling, whatever it is, we open this awareness and then we can tap into it. And I want to speak to what you said about shame, and especially women. There's a whole chapter in the book that I call Shame on Who? Because we have been enculturated into to be shamed, and to be ashamed of our bodies, our sexuality, and our desires. And shame has been weaponized against us. And so what happens, it's like you mentioned the patriarchy. I call it the puritanical patriarchy. It uses fear to control us, right? So they pit women against each other, right? In the patriarchy, it's like, keep the women fighting for the man's attention, and then they won't come together using all of their brilliance and creativity and power to demand equality, right? I mean, even in 2024, women in the US made 81 cents to the dollar that men made. Okay, so which is obscene and absurd. It's been 100 years since the Equal Rights Amendment was first introduced. 100 years, okay? So, and we're still far from it. So that's how fear is used in the patriarchy to keep us fighting against each other. You know, the anti-trans bill, the anti-immigrant, all of this is just keep people fighting against each other so we don't really turn collectively in our power against those that are oppressing us. Shame is the same way, except what it does is it has us turn against ourselves. So there's some judgment that's coming from out there, whether it's the society or maybe it's a parent that, you know, you were pleasuring yourself when you were 3 years old and you were, you know, shamed, or something happened, right, about our bodies and we were shamed. And so then we turn that judgment, someone else's judgment, not ours, against ourselves. And there have been studies that show that shame isolates us, it makes us small, it makes us retreat, and it represses us. So as soon as we recognize that, hey, that is a tool of the patriarchy that's trying to squish me into a box, and I say, no, thank you. No, thank you. No shame. I will not. I have in the book, in that same chapter is, you know, name the shame game. Yeah. So name it. You know, when it comes up, you notice it. When I notice it in myself or in another person, you just name it. Hey, shame, it's been a minute. And then whose voice is that? Who is that? Is that coming from somewhere inside? Is that someone? Is it a parent? Is it the patriarchy? Who is it? And just put it out, get it out from our internal, you know, dialogue, the tapes in our head, and put it out, like on our altar table, if you will, so then we can see it for what it is. Oh, they're trying to put me in a box and squish my desire and my passion and my expression. No, thank you. Thanks for visiting, shame, but, you know, it's time for you to move on, you know, with your day.
Yeah, I really like that framework. I think that, in the therapy world, we say name it to tame it. And so that's exactly what's happening there. It's like, and it really like, gives it its light, it gives it its time. And it's like, okay, you can move on now. This isn't, like you're not welcome here, essentially, is the language. For someone that is feeling disconnected from their pleasure right now, what would you say is the most compassionate first step that they could take towards this idea of pleasure being their responsibility?
Is to bring in self-acceptance. You know, even though the book is about a personal pleasure practice and also, you know, in relationship. And whether you're practicing solo or whoever you're practicing with, it begins with loving and accepting ourselves exactly as we are. And there are many, many self-love invitations and practices to really cultivate that. And so the first thing is to just be okay. Notice if you have judgments or criticisms or comparisons, which, you know, this is all part of the patriarchy. That we've been indoctrinated to compare our experience with somebody else's, and theirs is always better. You know, the grass is always greener kind of thing, right? Instead of like, this is where I'm at. And accepting where we're at right now. Okay, I haven't felt pleasure in a long time, but I want to. And just that desire, I want to, and set a simple intention that I'm going to spend 10 seconds, 1 minute a day, a week, but maybe start with, you know, a day in just focusing on pleasure in my body. And so, and that could be, you know, one hand on my heart, one hand on my belly. That could be, like I said, caressing your face. That could be self-pleasuring. Get out your favorite lube, you know, and explore. That could be taking a bath. Whatever would be most nourishing and pleasurable. You just ask yourself that simple question, what would be most pleasurable right now?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's you have this delicious chocolate bar. So you put a piece of chocolate on your tongue and you let it melt and you see how much pleasure can I get from this piece of chocolate. A scent, a flower, all of these, simple things so that we're just kind of rewiring our awareness towards pleasure.
Yeah, I think it's like, and I like that you're naming things too that are more outside of the space of like bedroom pleasure, intimate sexual pleasure, because I think that when we can build that muscle and start to experience pleasure outside the bedroom, it makes it all that more easier to access it when we are inside the bedroom. And I think it's like, oh yeah, hey, like this is familiar. I know what this feels like. Let me lean more into this instead of trying to, yeah, block ourselves from experiencing that.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yep.
What would you say, like when somebody is trying to fix themselves or they're noting the shame, they're kind of doing the work here, but when it's coming, that fixing is coming from that more of that shame lens versus that empowerment lens, how do you see that actually blocking us from pleasure or even orgasm?
I see it like a dam,
Hmm.
actually,
Hmm.
as a metaphor.
Yeah.
And we are, you said name it to shame it. I have a game that I've been playing with myself for about 25 years,
Hmm.
which is about naming the different parts of myself
Yeah.
when I get to know them. And as
Hmm.
soon as I recognize that, oh, that's something, name it, right? Name it to know it too.
Hmm.
um, and to become more intimate with this part. And so if there and within, and I call this our inner pantheon, like the Greek or Roman, right, gods,
Yeah.
we all have an inner pantheon of all the different parts of ourselves.
Hmm.
And in each of our inner pantheons is a wounded child, no matter who you are.
Hmm.
In each of our inner pantheons is an inner lover or wild sensual self.
Yeah.
They might be the same, they might be different, but we have, that's universal. And so if our whole inner pantheon is not along for the ride, is not aligned with your intention, whatever intention you want for your pleasure,
Hmm.
for to own your pleasure, for your sensual and sexual fulfillment, then it's not going to work out well.
Hmm.
So we need to turn. So what I found with is that most of us, it's the inner kid that feels unsafe, that feels was shamed as, in our childhood,
Hmm.
that is the one that we need to just love into wholeness and make sure that they're along, that we have them, I call her little Elana. I get her like on my lap. I got you, girl. I got your back. And no
Hmm.
matter what happens, no matter what anybody else out there does, I've got her. And
Yeah.
I'm going to take care of her. And I'm going to stand up for her. And so it's really, and there's a guided journey about in the book, connecting with this part of ourselves, our
Hmm.
wounded kid, and loving it and really tending to that part. And
Hmm.
so um, that is, if there are parts of ourselves, and I have a big disassociated D, I call her, that leaves my body, that I spent, the first 30 years of my life mostly in the golden place, which was disembodied, like
Hmm.
disassociated, like just
Hmm.
going through the motions, doing what everyone else wanted me to do, being the good girl, all that stuff. So we have to bring her in. If we don't, then guess what? Which is what I did in my younger adulthood, had a lot of disassociated sex, right?
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
wasn't in my body. I wasn't, I didn't know what I wanted, didn't know what to ask for. And so we have to get to know these parts and really embrace them, to bring them along so that when we are in the bedroom,
Hmm.
and I'm starting to disassociate, now I have practices like I'll or touch myself, on my heart, bring myself in. If
Hmm.
I'm feeling little Elana is feeling a little hurt, then I can give her voice. I can tell that to my spouse and say, my little kid, needs to pause right here. And I
Hmm.
just need to tend to her. Or could you give me a hug because I'm feeling, a little vulnerable right now and a
Hmm.
little
Hmm.
reactivated. So the more we know these parts of ourselves and the more intimate we are with them, the more we can really love them, know when they're coming forward, so that they're not going to be a dam to block our sensual, sexual fulfillment and exploration and pleasure.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I like that metaphor. And thank you, yeah, so much for all the depth that you're offering around this topic. And oftentimes when I'm working with people, I'm hearing the consistency being the piece. And so I like that you're saying like it can just be these smaller 10-second practices even, or I think sometimes when people put voice to of like what it can look like, people have this realization of like, oh, okay, like maybe I am actually tapping into pleasure. I didn't know, I wasn't calling it that necessarily. One of the ones that I like is when we are stepping into the shower, right? Like you probably set your water faucet to the most perfect spot. You know exactly where it is, where that dial is to get the perfect temperature for yourself. That can be a pleasure practice. And so when I hear consistency, and I'm curious what you have on this, but what would you tell somebody that is maybe getting down on themselves because they're struggling with the consistency behind having a regular pleasure practice?
Again, gentleness, forgiveness with ourselves. Forgiveness. Just be like you would treat the person or pet or being who's easiest for you to love, right? Always bring that person back, or that being, that pet. Be like, how would you treat this person if they were not doing their regular pleasure practice that they had committed to? You'd probably be generous with this person, right? You'd be like, you know what? Today's a new day. This moment is a new moment. Let's try it right now. Let's try it right now, because bringing ourselves, we spend so much time in our heads, in thinking about what happened in the past and reviewing, right? What happened, what I could have done, what I should have done, or what he said, what she said, or projecting into the future about, well, this is what I want it to be. Instead of just here right now. This is all we ever have, is right here, right now. And so starting right now, when you realize it's like, okay, I'm going to be gentle. I'll be gentle with myself. I love the self-hug. Give yourself a self-hug. Sometimes I like to rock, because you just like rocking yourself. It's so good. And you're taking care of yourself. And then, okay, I'm going to start again. And it's a practice. It's not a perfection. It's a practice. And so every moment we have a new chance. It's a fresh slate, really, to just be like, okay, I'm going to commit again. And the thing about noticing what practices you have in your life that are enriching your life and are beneficial. And you may not always want to do that practice. And it could be a therapy practice, right? It could be a meditation practice, it could be a yoga practice, could be a running practice, whatever. It could be a journaling practice, a painting, any kind of practice that you have that brings benefit to your life. And when sometimes you may not always feel like going to therapy, I'm sure you have clients who are like, however, by the end of the session, they're like, yes, that was, you never think that was a waste of time. It was good. It was enriching. I feel better having done that. Same thing with the pleasure practice. So it's just about getting into the rhythm and the groove of like, okay, I don't even need to feel like it. I just need to ask myself the question. What would be most pleasurable right now? And then give that to yourself, even if it's 10 seconds or 5 minutes.
Yeah, thank you for that. What is a belief that you think that people need to release in order for pleasure to really expand?
Deservability. Like, because of this puritanical patriarchy that we, in the air we breathe, is this work. We have to work first. You have to get your work done, and pleasure is frivolous. And how can you, wow, democracy is on the line right now. People are dying. We've got, all the horrors. I mean, we're living in a horror show right now, really. A lot of beings. You and I, we are so blessed. And I'm so delighted to be in this conversation with you. And may all the listeners also recognize the blessings in their life. And there are many, many, many humans on this planet now who are in, horrifying conditions.
Mm-hmm.
And so that will have us be like, well, wait a second, how could I, the guilt, that how can I focus on pleasure when this is happening? We must focus on pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
Not only because it's a revolutionary act to free ourselves from the patriarchal prison
mm-hmm.
that the patriarchate wants to keep us in. Oh no, we are freeing
mm-hmm.
ourselves, and we're freeing each other. Also, it will fuel us and create resilience to be able to be courageous and kind. When we're to be able to go, all those people who are in Minnesota right now, who are out on the streets, we've got people, I know in the Bay Area as well, everywhere across this country, who are showing up to provide protective presence for the immigrants in their neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And not only the immigrants, the people who just happen to, that the white supremacists are going after, people who are black and brown, right? Mm-hmm. Who speak Spanish or a different language. So for us to be able to show up in our communities and in this moment when we have to be in our hearts, in our bodies, in our fully, embodied, a pleasure practice, is going to sustain us, mm-hmm. is going to fuel us. And I know it has for me like nobody's business over the past 5 years since my spouse and I have had this mm-hmm. practice. And I have been more than ever involved in my local community. And that's why I can, because I'm filling myself up, and then I have overflow. Mm-hmm. And then I have overflow to go into my family and to go then into my community and out into the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so beautiful. And luckily for us, you have a book that you wrote to explain all of this for us, right? So I definitely want to give space to be able to talk through the book. And so can you just tell us a little bit about what the Sure Thing, your book, it serves as a roadmap to this journey? What does it look like?
That's right. It does. It's called The Sure Thing, a pleasure practice to revive the spark, whether mm-hmm. that's a spark in a relationship or the spark within ourselves, or all of the above. Mm-hmm. And I call it a playbook. It's an interactive playbook. We've gotten some great praise and about, one of the therapists who wrote a review said, I've never read a book with so many exercises for people to be able to connect with themselves and with each other. And so I'm just delighted to have it out in the world. Mm-hmm. Just, February 3rd is when it came out. Mm-hmm. And so it is really, this was a practice that I created, that my spouse and I started over 5 years ago, that has been such a miracle in my life. Yeah. That about 6 months into our weekly practice, after we did our Sure Thing, and often we'd high five afterwards, because it was like so simple, so profound. Over a decade, Rachel, of gunk and built up and withholds almost dissolved overnight, because it wasn't about who approached, who didn't, who in the mood or not. It's just, no, we're turning towards each other. Our intention is to deepen in intimacy, connection, and pleasure. So about 6 months after we're having this, doing this practice, I said, honey, I think I'm gonna have to write a book, because I can't keep this just to ourselves. It's been so phenomenal. Mm-hmm. So there you go. So that's what inspired the book. Mm-hmm. And the book then takes the reader through identifying your own intention. If the intention that we have turns you on, take it. Mm-hmm. And if there's something else, then there are exercises to have you identify, what is my intention that's going to inspire and motivate me to have a weekly Sure Thing. Yeah. And then how do you do that? And so the guidebook, it's interactive. There are journaling pages. There's lots of beautiful art that I hired a local artist to make, art in it, because I wanted it to be beautiful and I wanted it to be empowering. Mm-hmm. And it is really a journey of falling in love with ourselves so that we can bring more love into the world. Mm-hmm. And when I am loving myself, then I have more love for my partner. I have more love for my family, and so on. And so, so you can get the book at my website, which is surethingexperiment.com. You can also get it at Barnes & Noble and Amazon and Apple Books. And
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, we'll definitely link that in the show notes for people to grab that. And yeah, for others that are maybe wanting to work with you or hear more about you or just be in your space, in your presence, you mentioned the website. What about any social medias that you would like for people to follow you on?
Sure. I'm on Facebook,
Mhm.
Elana Auerbach. You can find me there, and also on Instagram.
Perfect.
Yeah, I would love to have you join and follow. And I will be having an online class It'll be an online experience of from the Sure Thing Love Experiment. We'll create a love laboratory, have a weekly time when we come together on Zoom that I'm calling the Sure Thing 2026 Spring Challenge, where it'll be support to have your weekly Sure Thing. And we'll be sharing and we'll be inspired by other people, what they're doing for their Sure Thing. And we'll go through the book and more. It'll be really,
that sounds
really
beautiful.
pleasurable.
Yes. Yes. Well, thank you so much. Yes, of course, for the book, for the work that you're doing, and for, just bringing voice to this thing being a possibility for others in the life. And thank you again so much for coming on to the show today. It was really an honor to have you.
Oh, thank you for hosting, Rachel. Really a delight. Thank you.
Thank you so much for spending your time with me today on the Owning Your Sexual Self podcast. If today's episode resonated with you, I invite you to pause and notice what stood out, what stirred something in you, or what you might want to explore a little bit more gently this week. If you'd like to support the podcast as it continues into its 6th year, subscribing, leaving a review, or sharing this episode with someone that you trust and love truly, truly means the world to me. It helps these conversations reach more people who need permission to feel less alone in their sexuality and their relationships. You can find more resources, programs, and ways to work with me in the show notes, and I'd love to connect with you beyond the podcast. Until next time, keep honoring your body, your boundaries, and your becoming. I'll see you soon.